You're live.
We are live and right on time. Good evening, everybody. This is a regularly scheduled city council workshop. Today is Monday, May 13th. It's 5:15 p.m. Around the table, we have Councillor Leonard. Councillor, I gotta take off my reading glasses so I can see who's over there because you're all just a blur. Councillor Fish, Councillor Dean, Councillor Schaefer, Councillor Yakbaga, Councillor Trumbull, Councillor Fournier, myself, Council Chair Pelletier. And we are joined for an update on the citywide revaluation process. Would you like to start?
Good afternoon.
You can start.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
For those at home, this is our city assessor filter.
thank you very much. Yes, this is kind of kicking off the public discussion of the reval. So tonight I'm here. Rob Tozier is here from KRT Appraisal. And the memo that you have basically has an outline of what Rob is going to talk about with his slides very briefly. And then we've also attached frequently asked questions, and there are 33 of them. So if there's a question that should come up during any public information programs, we pretty much should have the answers right there. So we're really embarking on the 2-year project to do the revaluation, which will be measuring and listing and visiting over 11,000 properties over a 2-year period. So we will be starting that project. And the reason for the project, this necessity is it's really been 37 years. The last time we've been to each property and updated all the data. And most of the standards that we have, either from the state gives us standards or the International Association of Assessing Officers, you know, it's all about really having up-to-date, accurate data. And really, it's really time for us to do that because there's the disparity between sale prices and property values is becoming wider, and you really can't narrow it without accurate data and an updated model. And we'll have new software. So really all classes of property will be visited. I want to ask, you know, the biggest thing for a successful project will be the public's participation, right? So when a data collector is coming to our properties, the more data they can collect, the better, the more accurate the assessment will be. So that'll be a goal really throughout the project. So at this point, we've got plans to be at Downey School, Cohen School, Dowdy School for informational sessions, either in late May or early June. And then the first association meeting we'll have with GABOMA, which are the Bangor Area Apartment Owners Association. And I'll be there on the 21st to give them a similar presentation, have their questions answered, and hopefully, you know, begin really that public discussion of this entire process. And so, Rob is here from KRT Appraisal. And good evening, Rob.
Good evening, folks. Can you hear me? All right. Is it loud enough? Hello?
You may not hear us.
Apologies, Rob. We can't hear you. Just a second.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry. Rob, can you say something?
Can you hear me now?
Is our mic working?
You can hear us, I think. Yeah. Rob, can you nod if you can hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah. For some reason, your audio is not working.
Can you hear me now?
Microphone.
I don't think it's a
Speaker. Hold on. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, just a sec. One more time.
Can you hear me now?
Nope. Close. Now?
Can you hear me now?
That'll work, right?
First try.
Yes. All right. Apologies
the-
about,
It's okay. How's the volume? Is this loud enough for you folks to hear?
I think it's good.
All right, well, good evening. My name is Rob Tozier, Vice President of KRT Appraisal. I appreciate the chance to talk with you folks tonight about the revaluation. I'll be going over the goals of a revaluation, the traditional approaches to revaluation, and discussing the revaluation phases. I'll then be available to answer any questions you may have and go from there. As Phil mentioned, it's been many years since Bangor's last revaluation, so the ultimate goal here is to restore assessment equity by adjusting the values for market shifts over time. This is accomplished by using a mass appraisal model to create consistency. The three approaches to value are the market approach or the sales comparison approach, the cost approach, and the income approach. Those are for commercial properties. The phases will be data collection, sales review and valuation, sales analysis, field review, and informal hearings and reporting. For the data collection, before starting, we'll mail a postcard to all property owners, letting folks know that we'll be coming around to visit them. This will start in June of this year. Our guys will have an ID badge and they'll mark their cars with a magnet sign that says assessing office. We'll knock on all the doors requesting an inspection. And those properties without an inspection will get a letter at the end of the process requesting a phone call for an appointment. That'll happen probably in the spring of 26. The next phase is the sales review and validation. We're going to analyze all properties that sold in Bangor between April 1st of 24 and April 1st of 26. We'll determine which sales are valid by using online resources and MLS when possible. And those qualified sales become the benchmark for determining fair market value. The analysis will be used to update all land and building tables. We'll run that analysis by location, lot size, building style, and building quality. There's a few more as well, but those are the big ones. And all ratio studies will conform to standards established by Maine Revenue and the IAAO. For the field review, once the preliminary assessments have been established, we'll review all the properties in the field to verify data accuracy and to ensure that the values reflect fair market value. This is the process where values go from preliminary to final. The last phase is the informal hearings and reporting. In about June or July of 2026, we're going to mail an impact notice to all property owners in Bangor that will show the old and new values. We'll take phone calls from folks and hold informal hearings over the phone, giving property owners a chance to ask questions and have their value reviewed. After the hearing process, we'll mail a final notice to everyone that had a hearing. And then we're going to supply the city with a USPAP manual, which is the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, that describes the methodology and sales used and tables used to complete the revaluation. Below this here is a sample of the postcard that will go out. And Phil attached some frequently asked questions to the end of this that you folks can read at your leisure, I guess. There's plenty there. Are there any questions?
Counselor Schaefer?
I've reviewed these materials and I know that there's a frequently asked question, but I feel like the questions I'm going to get asked the most about this are regarding the home inspection. So my questions are basically, what does the interior inspection consist of? How should tenants manage someone coming looking to inspect the interior of a residence or a home? And there's also sort of a little bit, I of a safety concern, and that, people may not want to let someone, even with badges and all that, to have someone come into their home if they're the only person there. So I'm sure that those are questions, and I don't see solid answers to that. So if, when we roll this out, there can be some really strong answers for those particular concerns. Doesn't need to be answered right now, but those are the things I don't see answered in the frequently asked questions.
Yeah, well,
Did you
folks,
want to answer any of
yeah, I'll
those?
answer that, to the best of my ability now. So it's not mandatory for folks to let us in. Obviously, you know, their participation is vital in getting accurate data. So we're gonna ask as many folks as possible to really, you know, let us in to verify that information. We're looking for things like bedroom count, bathroom count, overall condition, overall quality, checking for renovations, deferred maintenance, materials used. Is, you know, is it a custom kitchen? Is it an older kitchen? What kind of flooring is used? The inspection lasts probably between 5 and 15 minutes. It's pretty quick. It's just, you know, checking out the entire inside, asking homeowner questions, and make sure the information on the record card is accurate. And if a tenant is there, we probably won't get in. My guess is that, you know, they'll just say, we're a tenant, we're not the owner, or contact the owner. In that case, they'll get a letter in the mail at the end of the process asking for a phone call for an appointment for an inspection.
Counselor Trumbull?
Yeah, my question may be more for Phil or somebody else, but maybe, I guess when people get that card at the end showing their old value and the new value, say, if I got my card, my house was at 250 and it goes up 100,000, I would say, well, okay, but what's the impact on my what I'm paying into property taxes? So there's some way to say, okay, if everybody's properties went up 25%, it's not gonna affect it, and theoretically, it wouldn't affect your tax bill at all, but as a way to get a figure saying, okay, if yours went up 25%, and yours went up 30%, and yours went down 10%, is there a way to show, based on that year's tax bill, what the impact would be on their actual bill? Cause I really don't care what my goes up to, as long as I know if I get paying less, I'm happy, so who knows what's gonna happen with the reval.
What do you think, Rob?
What typically happens, it's usually about a third, a third, a third. So a third will stay about the same in taxes. A third will go down a little bit and a third will go up. It's like basically a bell curve. And the tighter that curve at the top will determine, you know, how many have drastic changes in their assessment. So obviously if the average was, you know, 50% of an increase and you go up 75%, my guess is you're probably going to see an increase in your taxes. That's usually how that works. If you're well above the average increase, you're going to see an increase in taxes. So obviously our goal is not to, you know, jack anyone's taxes up. Our goal is just to create a model that generates equitable assessments. So yeah, that's.
I kind of think that because I've made annual adjustments over the years, we're not going to see huge percentage increases or decreases. I think for a revaluation, the percentage change is rather small. But we're really shooting for much better equity. And that's gonna cause some changes. But I don't think they're really that significant on the value side, and then whatever the budget is in 2026.
Yeah, the key is equity. We want to have all classes of property valued at the same ratio. So right now, if one class is lagging behind another class, then our goal would be to equalize those two classes to have similar ratios relative to the sale price.
And Councillor Schaefer, I think the answer to the question on like the data collected, it's almost like the data collected or that you would see in the 20 images that are attached to an MLS listing, right? They're gonna post about 20 photos, and it's gonna give you a pretty good indication of what's, the components of the house, the number of rooms in the house, number of bathrooms in the house. So I kind of think of a data collector as someone just almost visually walking through a home and taking mental pictures and notes on those same 20 components that are important to the market, right?
Mhm.
Because the valuation and the data collected should be important in the local market. And I think that's what the real estate agents kind of show us with their images.
I just have one question, back on the slide on sales review and validation. It said KRT will determine which sales were valid using online resources. What does it mean to have a valid sale for this purposes of this?
It's an arm's length transaction, meaning a willing buyer, willing seller. It wasn't a foreclosure, wasn't a family sale. Wasn't sold, to or from the city. It's just no duress, just a typical transaction, that reflects full fair market value. Obviously, if it's like an estate sale or a foreclosure sale, then there's different, intentions, with that transaction. Like a divorce, for example, it may not be a market value transaction, so we're gonna figure out of all the sales that take place in Bangor over that 2-year period, which ones were the good ones, which ones were the bad ones.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the comment on the online resources, that's usually the most efficient way to find out if the property has been listed and
Sure.
exposed to the market.
Councilor Fournier?
How many members are on your team that will be doing the inspections?
That's sort of to be determined. We'll probably end up with between 2 and 5 at various points. It's a pretty large city, so we'll need to have, many boots on the ground, but, we want to keep it as few as possible just to create, equity and consistency amongst our folks that are out there in the field. So we have, 9 data collectors right now that work for us, so we'll probably pick from those, based upon where they live relative to Bangor.
Thank you.
And Councilor Schaefer, on your safety concern, so we do have a profile on each of the data collectors. And we've already shared that with the police department, so.
I'm 100% sure on that, but I can also picture like my 17-year-old daughter being home alone and having someone saying the city needs to come into the house and her being like, or any,
Yeah.
I think that it should be something that is addressed in our information to the city.
Yeah.
And share that and just, and what is the alternative if you don't want to, if you're a single homeowner and you don't want to have somebody in your house alone with you, what are the alternatives or, I think that's something that should be addressed.
Got it.
Yeah, we're not gonna do an inspection if no one over the age of 18 is home. So if somebody looks like they're of age, we'll ask, are you 18 or not? Are your parents home? We'll try to get some information so that we can, complete the inspection, but we're not gonna go through someone's house if there's not a parent home.
And the other thing, and my kids would never honestly answer the door anyway, but like, I know that when we had our deck inspected after we did a deck, the appraiser came around, we just walked around the house and checked it out, which I was home, it was fine, but it looks like that will happen as well. I don't know. I would like it to be really clear that there are people walking around houses for a reason, because for the safety of the inspectors as well as the comfort of the homeowner, the residents.
And that's the whole point of the postcard. So the postcard is going to go out ahead of time to folks. We'll do it in batches, probably in 200 to 500 parcel batches. Send the postcard out and just say, listen, over the next few months, someone's going to be coming around from KRT Appraisal. They're going to have their badge on. They're going to have a magnet on their vehicle. It's legit stuff. We'll have their vehicles registered with the police department. And we'll get all the word out that we're coming around ahead of time so that folks, aren't caught off guard.
Will it be information that can be shared through the city's social media as well? Like, hey, the inspectors are working on these streets this week or anything like that. I just think the more that you can get out in front of what to expect, who to expect is gonna be good.
I agree.
Hoping
We
to
do all that stuff.
have Public Works
Mhm.
updates where they tell us, oh, don't go down this road.
Right.
Right.
Just real quick too, Courtney O'Donnell, Assistant City Manager. Our office has been working really close, with Mr. Drew over this. We do expect a pretty robust sort of social media presence, press releases to get some news attention and things of that nature. Just to make sure that, as many layers as possible is out there to make sure people are informed and we know where they are. And, if somebody were to call up, as he mentioned, PD, they'll be able to look to make sure that, yep, that's legit. They're in your area, that sort of thing. So we're trying to think of all the things, but certainly if there's other things that, folks are aware of, please pass them along. Thank you.
Yeah, we post on our website pictures of all of our data collectors, and we'll put on the Bangor page of our website what streets we're going to be working on over the next few weeks. So we'll update that as we go through, so that if folks do go to the website, they can see sort of where we're at.
Thank you. Councilor Yakbaga and then Councilor Fish.
So my question might be so unrelated, so excuse my ignorance about this, but during COVID, we have we witnessed an increase, a huge increase in prices. Would the outcome of this survey help stabilize kind of the market prices? See, I told you it might be very unrelated.
So the assessed value that Rob will develop will utilize the sales from April 2024 until March of 2026. So we trail the market. So we respond to the market behavior. So wherever the
Yeah.
market goes.
So, yeah, so we're done with that. So we start where it ended in 2024, basically, like, the prices and the unstable prices. It's, let's say, by 2023, 2024, that's when they settled a bit. So that's where the survey will start, looking into numbers, that's where it starts in 2024.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Those sales, that 2 year of sale, those 2 years of sales will basically help develop the model.
Exactly, yes.
And
Yes.
that's utilized.
Counselor Fish?
I think my question is similar to Councilor Yuckbarger, that to have the reassessment now, when we're seeing some of the highest prices in the history of real estate, and they're going to be a lot different now than even if we had done this 3 years ago, 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. And yet, during the almost 8-year recession, when prices went down, if we had done the reassessment, then, we still wouldn't be where market value is. So I see where we need a correction to bring a better equitable presentation of our property values. But at the same time, there's going to be a huge difference, I think, tax-wise, on especially some of the elderly and some of the people that are having a hard time, making ends meet now. So I wondered if your formula takes into consideration at all the trend where we're at now, which just 2 years difference, there'd be a huge difference between now and 2 or 3 years ago. So you go strictly by today's prices, there's no correction formula to try to, and maybe with our tax assessor, I know you've talked to us about having a formula each year so that kind of wouldn't happen. Would that take care of the potential problem I'm asking about?
Well, I'm not sure how Rob would answer the question in regard to, forecasting in, the values in 2026, what's going to happen to the market over these 2 years.
I see. Because we are already
Oh.
seeing a bit of leveling off, I don't see them going down, but I do see some leveling off, and we don't have a crystal ball. So I'm just concerned for some people that are, especially the elderly on fixed budgets. We're kind of coming in at the peak, the highest prices we've ever seen in real estate. And now to have the assessment, if the market goes down or there's a huge difference just from 3 years ago. So I just didn't know if there was any kind of a little more softer leverage for some.
I mean, I guess my perspective is we've almost been there for 2 years at that high level, and that is where the market is.
Okay.
I don't think anybody's gonna be offering their property to the market for sale for lower numbers.
Okay.
It's-
Thank you.
Counselor
Just
Trumbull?
a follow-up to that, so it's a small staff, a lot of properties, 11,000 or something, you have small staff, so the whole process, it's a 2-year process?
Yep.
So, and then it's implemented April 1 of 2026?
Yep.
Okay, so if you do my house this June, and you do a house across town very similar in June of the fall of 2025, I mean, there's gonna be, and then we implement them all in 2026, it seems like my house would probably be a little less than the neighbor's house. So is your office still making adjustments in between, or, I mean, I don't think somebody's assessed in June of 2024 is gonna be the same as somebody assessed and appraised in the fall of 2025. But they're supposed to be all the same for the
So,
equitable.
I can answer
So
that,
I-
Phil.
yeah, I can,
Yeah, so basically, we're gonna enter the data. We're not gonna change any values per se. So there's 2 components here. There are tables that are baked within your Canvas system that allow us to update the values systematically by changing tables. That's gonna happen in the spring of 26. So we're not gonna change any tables until then. So all we're doing is collecting data, verifying information. So if a house is 24 by 42, that's what we're gonna put into the system. You know, the house is that size. So the values may change a little bit based on some data changes, maybe some different bedroom, bathroom counts, different, flooring materials, different, renovations we find out there. But the meat of the revaluation is gonna take place with those table changes in 26.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Dean, did you have a question?
I did. I think, initially everyone thinks that the taxes are going up, but for those that have bought high in 21, 22, even 23, if prices have leveled off, wouldn't they see more equity and their assessment would go down to kind of equalize the others going up? Compared to my home, I've been in for 30 years. So obviously mine's going up unless I had done nothing to it.
Right, and, we could probably have a discussion in regard to April 1st, 2025. Knowing that the revaluation is ongoing. If you folks wanted me to not make adjustments for April 1st, 2025, and just allow the assessments in the ratio to stay as it is, because I'm adjusting as of April 1st, 2024. I've shared those changes with you, and that would be a question that we can have to say, if we're going to be in a 2-year revaluation, should we not change assessed values on April 1st, 2025? And just allow the 24 numbers to go to 25, and then let the revaluation numbers come in for 26. That's an option.
Counselor Fournier?
To that point, but if we have a dramatic swing, and I don't know if we're going to me, I think we need to do that new assessment. Otherwise, I think we might be in a very bad position as far as values go. That's my opinion.
Counselor Schaefer?
I was just kind of going back to like the tax benefit in my house, like 20 years this month, actually. And so our taxes have gone up as we've gone, but we've also replaced the windows and we've done the roof. But if we added a deck, which is on the tax card, but if I had added a deck and it wasn't on the tax card, then I feel like that the revaluation to me sounds more almost like an inventory. So that a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house with a nice new deck is getting taxed at the same as the 3-bedroom, 1-bath house with a nice new deck that was permitted. And you know what I mean? So it matches out that way. Is that a better way of framing it, so that to make it more equitable across the
What do you think, Rob?
It's just to verify what's there. So if you've got a new deck, we're gonna pick it up if it's not in the card.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're gonna add what's not there and take off what's not there anymore. It could be the
Or
opposite.
if you like
It could-
tore down a garage,
Right,
know,
there
or
could be a
garage fell
garage there. You show up to the property, there's no garage, we're gonna remove it off the record card. So it's basically just updating the inventory to the point where the data is accurate.
yeah.
So we can put the accurate data into the model, and then that should generate accurate assessments.
And that- so
inaccurate
that
data
just-
in is not a good
Yeah.
thing.
So in my mind, I know it's called a revaluation, but it almost just feels like, it reminds me of like our rental registry and our inventory, like this is what we have.
Yeah.
And we have 300 3-bedroom, 1-bath houses, and they're all taxed around the same, and we have 500 4-2s or whatever it is. So I don't know if that helps reframe it for others at the table to think of it not as changing our taxes, but making sure that what's being taxed exists and what exists is being taxed.
Yeah, because a lot of what we call the data collectors years ago, they were assessment engineers, right?
Mhm.
Because it was really like, let's get a perfect sketch. Let's collect all the data accurately, and then find a model to put that data in to generate values, because we've got all the data on the sold properties, right?
Right.
So we'll know what the good 4,000 square foot house sells for.
But for like Susan and I, who've been in our houses for decades, you haven't seen our data in a long time.
Exactly.
Any other questions? Counselor Leonard?
So regarding the 3 valuation approaches, so sale approach, cost approach, and help me on the last one,
Income.
income thing. Are those being, thanks, Rob. Are those, as they're being utilized and weighed for the valuation process, are they staying in their lanes for like, say, for example, income approach, you had it, listed that that's more focused on commercial properties. Do these interchange at all, with other types of property values as we're analyzing, as you guys are analyzing them?
Are you talking just about the income approach and how it's used?
No, all three.
All three. So basically, everyone's going to get valued using a blend of the first two, the sales comparison and the cost. CAMA runs off of a market adjusted cost approach where you get an actual building value added to a land value to get the assessment. So we're going to run that blended model for all the properties in the city, residential, commercial, industrial. Then we're going to run the income approach for the income producing properties, which would be your commercial, industrial, mixed use and apartments. And then we're going to reconcile the market adjusted cost value with the income approach value to within 10% so that they support each other. And at that point, that's how we're going to know that the commercial assessments are at current market, because it's not only at market based on what is sold, but based on what the rents and the income model is telling us that it's worth.
So this is gonna be the same formula they use for even complex and so some other characteristic rich buildings as well. It's gonna be the same formula regardless of how complicated they are.
Yeah, most properties will fit into a master appraisal model. There's some unique ones that we can't kind of cram into the model, but I'm sure Bangor has a few of those, like your casino, for example, is one of those, outlier properties that's really tricky to jam into a master appraisal model. We can make it work, but it's just a little trickier, but it works for, the bulk of the properties.
And I guess a follow-up question I have, and this is more so, I guess, a rhetorical one, is does the valuation process, the assessment process, does that really determine the value and use of those buildings for us as a city to determine? Or do we take that into consideration when we're deciding what a building's future is?
The values are done based upon highest and best use. So we look at things for their highest and best use, but most of the time it would be the current use of the building. So we're not going to say you've got a Pete's pizzeria in town. It's probably better off being a Domino's so they can get more rent. We're not going to make those assumptions. So we're going to value the properties at their current use, and then go from there.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Phil.
You're welcome.
All right, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
More lively discussion than you might imagine. on
30
assessment.
minutes.
Pretty good.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks,
Thank
Rob.
you.
Thank you, Rob.
Appreciate it. All right, next up, we have the public restroom follow-up discussion. I assume we're gonna be joined.
I can.
You're getting all kinds.
So there was a multi-page memorandum that went out with the weekly packet. And this is a culmination of compiling all of the comments we received for and against, noting all of the concerns that were raised, all of the support that were raised. It just provides sort of a brief overview of where we've been. Obviously, public restrooms has been a topic in this community for several years. We understand that without access to public restrooms, sometimes time spent visiting certain areas can be limited. It also promotes individual well-being and overall public health. Recognizing that fact, in January, the city council appropriated $250,000 of ARPA money for the purpose of acquiring, installing, and operating up to 6 public restrooms throughout the city, with each one offering a public art opportunity. There's been much conversation about previous attempts to provide public restrooms were not wholly successful. Nobody is disagreeing with that. We had, when the traditional porta potty units were placed, we had worked with a couple of organizations to provide an increased level of monitoring and maintenance that either didn't come to fruition or were not able to be maintained. So that clearly puts you behind the 8 ball. without the ability to fulfill the required level of maintenance and monitoring. Many of those units were subject to abuse and misuse. Trying to balance the value of public restrooms as well as the challenges with ensuring safe and equitable access to public restrooms. I've been researching alternatives since for the last, can't tell you how, I mean.
It's been a few months.
Yeah, it's been a few months.
Been a few months.
So looking at whether it be permanent structures or the expanded use of something different from a portable units. So just based on our own experience, observations and discussion with other Maine communities, that's how we came forward with the units that were proposed. They were bid, the contract has been awarded, and they are currently under construction. I know during the public comments, there were thoughts about permanent structures needed to be in place. I would say that the temporary structures are meant to be our test period. If things work well, we can certainly look at other alternatives down the road, but we recognize the need to try this again with a maintenance plan in place. So the units are steel mounted to a concrete pad. They will be located in close proximity to a sidewalk or a street, allowing a higher level of visibility as well as easier access for services. They're the same concept as a portable unit in general terms, but they are larger. They're open at the bottom for easy monitoring, ventilation, and cleaning. They are not connected to utilities. They are ADA accessible and would be able to be relocated should the need arise. All of these things are items that we've discussed before. Questions that have come up regarding the cost. The cost to construct a unit is $14,400 per unit. The pad installation is $3,500, which is the concrete pad. If you multiply that all out, it's about $107,400. It also provides for, we showed examples of what a public art opportunity looked like in Portland. So we've had a significant amount of public comment in addition to the 100 or so comments that you all received via email and in person during public comment. We had the 3 well-attended public forums in late March and early April to gather feedback. Each had a brief discussion, a brief presentation, excuse me, and then we open it up for attendees to share their thoughts, concerns, support, discuss, ask questions, whatever. So we kind of categorized it into major themes across, regardless of the type of correspondence we receive. Public restrooms are needed within the community. There was broad-based support for the need for public bathroom restrooms to all. Concerns regarding vandalism, drug use, and illicit activity. Concerns that public restrooms will provide space for active drug use in public spaces, which may lead to additional health risks by exposing non-users to paraphernalia, may draw individuals into public neighborhood parks who may engage in other dangerous or illegal behavior that pose a threat to those utilizing and living adjacent to the neighborhood parks. A lot of the conversation centered around locations, ensuring that we are balancing the health and safety of families and children in our public parks. Noting that public parks close at 10 p.m. So providing restrooms that are open 24/7 is a concern. If the final plan includes public parks, consider installing in one and test how it works. Locations should be based on the amount of pedestrian traffic. Different parks have different missions. The lack of public restrooms in parks limits time families and children that do not live adjacent to the park may be able to spend on site. Maintenance, emphasis on regular routine and as needed maintenance is essential. And the maintenance efforts cannot result in runoff onto the ground. So collecting all of that and sifting through, collectively, Tracy and I talked about what all of that may look like. So based on all that feedback, there are 5 locations currently proposed in your packet. Broad Street remains an initial location that we thought, and it remains there. It's in close proximity to downtown. It has the potential to connect to utilities for possible permanent structure, highly visible and accessible. Cascade Park, we've had porta potties here each season with very few issues. We have the potential to connect to utilities for possible permanent structure. Spoiler alert, there's a draft master plan coming your way.
Yes.
That identifies a utility or restroom as a potential project here, and it is accessible. We looked at a parcel between what's referred to as Upper and Lower Abbott parking lot on Harlow Street. Again, close proximity to the library on Harlow Street, accessible and visible. We also looked at Essex Woods. This would support, that's a fairly busy area between those going for the dog park, mountain bike trails, walking trails, and the basketball court. It's visible, easily accessible. Eventually, the PAL Center could be considered to access for utilities if you wanted to consider a permanent structure. Cove Park on Port Street. It's near the Kentucky Stream Trail. It's visible, easily accessible. The location we're proposing is a clear separation from the play structures. It's across the street from the community garden area. And obviously it has a potential to connect to utilities. So we felt, we heard the public, you've all heard the public. I think trying to balance the concerns and the needs. At this point, we're gonna recommend that we begin with 5 locations rather than 6. We will still build out the 6 units so that we're ready. The maintenance, we have an estimate of maintenance from a subsidiary of the company who's actually building out the structures. We would estimate that, let's say, a total estimated annual cost to service each unit twice per week is $24,000 a year. We think we should, and that's based on what I will call our history. The porta potty at Cascade Park has been serviced twice a week. The pit toilet at the city forest is attended to by Parks and Rec 3 to 4 times a week, seasonably. Our seasonable restrooms are attended to daily by our park staff. What we will do is our park staff will visit each of the locations in between contractor servicing. So all 5 locations someone will have eyes on it. The contractor will be there twice a week. Parks and Rec staff will be there the days. We will adjust maintenance as needed. But it felt like that was the good starting point. At this point, they have begun to work, fabricating the first 2 units. They can complete 2 units about every 3 weeks. This will allow for phase placement. So we'll have a little bit of experience before we go to the next ones, Our intent would be that the first 2 units, we would start with Broad Street and Cascade Park as the 2 first locations. Then we would move to Harlow Street, Abbott Square, Court Street, Cove Park, and Essex Woods last. So with the deployment of 5 units in this way, this will add to the currently available public restrooms in the city that include, obviously here at City Hall, the Transit Center during its operating hours, the Harbor Master building down on the waterfront, as well as the utility building down on the waterfront that is open seasonally, and then the pit toilet that has been in operation for several years.
2003.
Yeah, I was gonna say decades, but I wasn't quite sure. I went the other
That
way.
was the Ron Davis project.
So that actually brings to total 10 public restrooms available in the city of Bangor. So I know you all as a group have not had a chance to have a conversation and share your thoughts. So for that, Tracy, I'll stop talking. Tracy hasn't even spoken.
No, you covered it.
All right.
You covered it.
Counselor Trumbull.
Just a question on available public restrooms. We also participate in the public restrooms, the restrooms at waterfront concerts, and those are supposed to be available when we need it for public events.
For
on the
event,
waterfront,
correct.
yeah.
Yep.
Have we used those yet? For any
They
public
just
events?
completed them last
Okay,
year.
yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
use them last year.
No.
probably, right?
No, but
they
we
get
will,
paid a
as we
substantial
do
amount,
events, we will be
Right.
looking to do
Okay.
those.
And these designs are modeled after the Portland one.
Correct.
I talked to somebody at Portland, and I don't understand how this works. They said they don't lock. I mean, I know they're built up so you can see if somebody is, is there a lock on these when somebody's in them?
So somebody's in them, yes, they'll come.
Okay, they
lock.
can lock.
Yeah,
Okay, I
somebody's in
forgot
them.
that was
Yeah,
strange.
Yep.
They said they didn't lock.
Yep.
Okay, but my only comment is I think this is what I envisioned when we first started talking about the local bathrooms is locations like this, so I think this is reasonable. We heard from the public, everybody thinks we need bathrooms, and it just seems like appropriate places to put them, so I'm fine with this recommendation.
Council Fournier?
So the rollout, you said Cascade Park and Broad Street. So are we doing this in phases or?
So only because it takes 2 to 3 weeks for them to construct 2 units.
Okay.
So once they finish constructing the first 2 units, we'll work to get those placed. They'll move on to constructing the next 2. And then we'll move on to placing the next 2.
Okay, so just, okay. I guess my thoughts were maybe do Abbott and Broad Street first, because I think those will be used more frequently by the public. I mean, Cascade Park, there's kind of a limited number of people that are there typically.
I think we picked Cascade because normally we are placing porta potties there at this time of year.
Okay,
So
so it's
to
just.
to ensure need to meet what the public has
Okay.
come to expect.
Because my main concern is maintenance.
Yes,
As it is up.
Yeah.
yes.
So I guess I was thinking the ones that are more highly used, let's get them in place and find out what the maintenance is gonna be. And those would, in my mind, those would be probably the 2 that would be used the most. But
Councilor Schaefer?
I'm fine with this recommendation. I would love to see the 6 go to a place like Hayford Park. I think Hayford Park has a lot of use and is a big enough, even though it's in a neighborhood, it's a city facility with multiple uses. And if you're not there for a game or if you haven't paid to go to the pool, not many places to go. So I feel like that would be a good one to have on the list for the 6th location.
Councilor Dean?
I'm pleased with the locations that were chosen for the rollout. I know in the beginning, there was a lot of controversy, and I have to say that a lot of the input from the citizens, I felt somewhat the same about the neighborhood parks. And I remember a comment that you made, and you said at one of our meetings, that not everyone has the luxury of living on a park. And that really resonated with me. But I do think that in light of what's going on in the city, that probably that's not the place currently for public restroom. So I think this is a good start. I am a little apprehensive about some of the maintenance. And I was thinking, what about like toilet paper?
Mhm.
Hand sanitizer
Mhm.
twice a week? Probably is not enough.
No,
As the city manager alluded to, between the contract and our staff, there'll be a daily check of those kinds of things, supplies. We're doing that now.
Okay.
We're doing that now. And as the city manager alluded to, if indeed, as we go along, that schedule has to change with either the contractor and or staff, we'll adjust accordingly. I think the rollout of the timing of the fabrication works to allow us to be able to assess those needs as we go along.
At the risk of being indelicate, is the twice a week servicing when the honey truck comes around?
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
Other questions and comments? Councilor Fish?
This project I know had, started before, this is our first year. And, I know, I do agree we need public, restrooms for the public. And I know I'm pleased with this because I also know that a lot of our downtown businesses sometimes are trying to accommodate the public or they have issues with public coming in. And hopefully this will help alleviate it. And also I was concerned when we were talking about parks in the neighborhood. And I agree with all the concerns or the majority of the concerns that we heard from the people living around those neighborhoods, with children that go into the park and some of the things that could go on. So I think that seeing these locations, I was happy to see these locations because I think a lot of the tourists, with, the cruise boats coming in, all of the events we have downtown, arts and craft shows. My mother used to be a participant at an art show downtown, and that was always a problem for her. So I think that this is, a perfect compromise maybe. And As long as we monitor it
Mhm.
and see how it goes, I guess that's the best way to see how we can adjust if we need. So,
Counselor Trumbull.
One other suggestion I heard for a location, which I think is appropriate, I know at the same time, we're trying to find people permanent, some housing in the area, but. The encampment out on the campus, was that, are there porta potties out, what are people doing out there?
They currently aren't, and it was purposeful, so these structures are meant to be a sense of permanency.
Mhm.
And I don't think that policing, what would be viewed as potentially a
Mhm.
permanent public restroom is really what we want. What we want is to house people. So to address those needs, I think we need to relook at the portable units that aren't quite as permanent.
Right, because it must be a pretty unsanitary
Yeah.
situation out there. So our official action, we voted a few months ago to fund this and build them. Is this just go forward with the staff? Do the council need to do anything further?
I would say that if we don't hear any concerns, that this is the plan we're gonna move forward with.
Counselor Yakubaka.
So reading all of the emails we received from our citizens, I thought they were overwhelmingly divided between supporting or opposing to public bathrooms. The idea, we know that, everyone agrees, yeah, we need public bathrooms. When it comes to implementation, that's where all of this agreement starts. I know that in civilized countries, public bathrooms are everywhere, and it should be the case in Bangor as well. It could be in recreational areas, it could be shopping, restaurants, parks, they are everywhere. They meet the needs of everyone. It could be children, elderly, adults who are just out and about, or the unhoused population. So it should not be limited to just, we are not creating this for the unhoused individuals alone. It's for everyone in the community who can benefit from them. And as Councillor Schaefer said, that not everyone has the luxury of living across from a park or neighborhood park. Like for me, I lived in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, of course, we had a backyard, but I always had to take my kids to Broadway Park to enjoy being with other kids and what the playground over there had to offer. So many times I had to cut it short and come back home. So limiting those as if they are just for the unhoused, I think that's unfair. Their concerns are legitimate. And it's all of our concerns that we all have. I share those concerns as well. But maintenance, that's where it comes handy. I mean, if we can focus more on maintenance, maybe increasing the amount of money that we already dedicated for this. I mean, that's just a suggestion, but I think what would encourage all of us to think differently about these bathrooms is maintenance. Maybe one of the emails we received, it stood out as very balanced, talking about visibility, how to keep those bathrooms in a visible corners, accessibility as well, to be accessible to everyone. And I thought that person was very thoughtful about their reply and how to offer their feedback in a way that is very thoughtful and thinking about every single one in the community, those who are against and those who are with. So in the end, if we start with those 5 locations, I'm fine with them, but I would like to see those expand. I hope we're not disappointed.
Me too.
I hope the feedback will be positive, but I would like to see those portable bathrooms in everywhere, like everywhere, maybe in parks, expand to more locations, but to meet the needs of our community members. And I mean, I will go with your recommendation for now.
Councilor Fournier, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just again, my concern is maintenance.
I know.
We have a budget before us that we're talking a double-digit increase in taxes. And now we're adding more. I know materially it probably isn't a whole bunch, but it's just that much more that we're asking for the citizens of Bangor to step up and pay. That's my concern.
Councilor Schaefer?
Just to follow up on that, just to reiterate that we do a lot for our unhoused population, but this is not a program specifically targeted to our unhoused. It's targeted to everyone. And I still think there should be options in parks. And there was actually, somebody sent me a post from a local mom's group, a mom of a toddler who said, what parks to take my little kid to? We also need more tot lots, by the way, but that's separate. But
Working on that too.
that has a bathroom because she's expecting her second child, and any of us that have had children, especially that second one, you need a bathroom, you need a bathroom. So it truly, and she was specifically trying to find a park that had access to a bathroom for her, and it wasn't even. I have had the need to have a bathroom for when my children were younger, and not living on the park and living a couple blocks away. Would have been nice to have had one close by, but I just feel like it needs to be really clear that this is not the unhoused may benefit from this, but this is for the citizens of Bangor, no matter where you live.
Councillor
And
James.
just to address what Councillor Schaefer said, and also Councillor Fournier, increased taxes, of course, is not something that's popular, and if maintenance will increase the taxes, people aren't going to really like that. But by having more public restrooms, hopefully we're going to encourage tourism and out-of-towners coming in, and maybe that will make up for some of the maintenance that needs to be done. So if we encourage more people to our town, obviously they're gonna need a public restroom. And they're not all coming to eat. They're not all going to a restaurant that can use the restroom. They may not be going to the museum that has a restroom. They may just be enjoying a downtown park or a walk or the waterfront. And they don't feel comfortable going into a place that they haven't frequented. So they need public restrooms as well. So they are for everyone.
Councillor Leonard.
So, on just this point alone, why it's important to have a city that has a robust amount of public bathrooms is just because of the prevention of preventable diseases such as cholera, for example. That in of itself will make up for any type of maintenance issues that come into play with preventable diseases. So I think this is well worth the investment, but also and I speak from a perspective of a family that does own a business in downtown. The amount of years that we've had to have our own private restroom be used as a public restroom for some people who are, whether they're on the poverty spectrum or they're people that are just looking for a bathroom to use and are not trying to be patrons to our business. That's really annoying. It's on the duty of a city to provide these public sanitation services. And to that point, since I was a student here in Bangor, this has been an issue. I, as a child, had very hard issues holding my bladder, trying to find a bathroom because I was in a park that did not have a restroom in it. So I'd be kind of disservicing myself if I didn't continue to support this as well. This affects our children just as much as it affects every other person, whether they are from here or they're just visiting. So I think this is a good start. And to echo what Councilor Yakabaga said, this will just be the first iteration of public restrooms. If the city continues to grow, more public restrooms are going to be needed.
Thank you. I will add that I really appreciate the thoughtful approach that the city staff has taken in trying to weigh all of the various perspectives and come up with a plan. I appreciate that this plan starts small. I think, for me, what's top of mind is safety and cleanliness. And so having two to start and being able to figure out the maintenance schedule and how to maintain it. What I hope is that these public restrooms are going to gain a reputation that they are safe and clean and people want to use them. I would love to see us partner, I don't know if it's the Cultural Commission or with who, but to have art on the sides of them, things that make them really attractive to the eye and interesting for people. I have been a little dismayed by the comments for people saying, don't put a restroom in our neighborhood park. There is nowhere in the city code that I've found, please correct me if I'm wrong, that differentiates between public parks and neighborhood parks. Even the golf course is a public park in the city of Bangor. So just because you live around a park doesn't mean you own it. People who don't live around your park also pay to maintain it and mow it and replace the play equipment. That being said, the concerns I've heard about safety, especially for kids, are valid. So we need to figure out what the middle way is. But I do think this is a really good, robust start. I have high hopes. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed for the implementation. And, hope that by the end of the tourist season this summer, that we have had a lot of positive public comments on the availability of facilities for everyone in our city. Anything else that we missed on this topic? All right, city manager updates.
Relatively small this week. We were working, after only 2 years. So there's the staff that's on the waterfront that supports the living water, sculpture. After only 2 years, the paint is peeling on it very badly, so we had the contractor come back. Repainting it isn't gonna be really an option because of the type of material it is. And if you wanna know, ductile iron doesn't accept paint well, so got that much. So the contractor was on site and they started looking at boxing the structure in and siding it in a similar manner as the building itself. We reached out to the artist to make sure, and the artist actually came on site because we did not want to impact the artist's intention or presentation related to their sculpture. The artist felt it was gonna be fine. So we were working on that, and some vandals accessed the equipment over the weekend and did some damage to the utility building, so we're working to get that repaired. We continue to discuss with our community partners our plan to assist those who are currently within the encampment behind Hope House. Hope to have a plan later this month to you all. Just an update, Preble Street continues to do its due diligence as it relates to Hope House shelter. They actually expect to have that wrapped up early June. So we should kind of know where everything stands here in about a month or so.
Do we have the update from the end of the legislative session on what has actually been granted to
No,
Hope House?
but I will get it. So my understanding is it was about $500,000 per shelter for the next 3 years. That was how it was relayed to me, but I haven't pulled the language.
It'd be
Yeah.
great to know specifically what is
Yeah.
the funding gap
Yeah.
that Hope House still needs to fill.
And I believe some of that is related to the due diligence that Preble Street is working through with them.
Sure.
And that's it.
Questions for the city manager? All right, Councilor Schaefer.
I move we go into executive session under 1 MRSA 456D, Fraternal Order of Police, Bend Patrol Officers, Executive Session 1 MRSA 456D, the Fraternal Order of Police, Bend Police Commanding Officers, and Executive Session 1 MRSA 456C and 456E. Consultation with city solicitor, consideration of property interests and pending litigation.
Second,
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, your roll call vote. Councilor Leonard,
Yes.
Councilor Fish.
Yes.
Councilor Dean. Yes. Councilor Schaefer. Councilor Yakubaga.
Yes.
Councilor Trimble.
Yes.
Councilor Fournier.
yes.